Welcome back. At a recent Creator Jam, I was messing around with a feature to do with lighting, and a few users nearby were exclaiming they didn't know that Neos could do that, and so it prompted me to make a tutorial about it. The Creator Jam was called Creator Jam 96. It was about a 1940s sort of black and white film, concrete shoes, cops, robbers, cigarette smoke everywhere, and trilby hats everywhere as well. So let me show you what I built, and then we'll go over how I made it and how it works. This is covering spotlights, and in particular the cookie functionality that exists within spotlights. Let's take a look. So over here in Smooth POV, I've got the gadget which I created. You can see here it's just a spotlight. In this case, it's shining a cheese onto the wall here. It's designed to sort of emulate the bat signal from the Batman films, which is where they put the Batman logo in front of a bright light and shined it at the clouds. This one creates a cheese logo in a similar fashion. Not quite exactly. Of course, there's not really many clouds in Neo, so this is just shining it at a wall, and it uses the sort of inverse of the way that it's done in the films and the TV show, etc. But it's still very applicable to Neos, and it's still a fun concept that you can use to create some interesting visual effects. In fact, if you go to Neos Essentials Gadgets, you actually find a projector in there. Let me go grab that for you. So Neos Essentials Gadgets, you'll find that there is a Neos logo projector here. And let me just shine this at the wall, and you'll see it projects the Neos logo onto the wall as well. It uses exactly the same principle. In this case, they've got some rotation going on to make things look different. There's also actually, moving, so they're different. And there's actually two lights going on here. We'll cover why that is as we start to build out an example of this. You can find this gadget within my public folder. It's on public prime, and then gadgets, and within that you'll be able to sort of look around and look at the light. Following this tutorial, you'll be able to replace the cookie on this light with absolutely anything, and that will enable you to play around with making your own sort of cookie-based lights for any scenario. So let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. The first thing you're going to need is a light tip. This isn't one that we have used that much before. You also need a developer tooltip, so let's go ahead and grab those from Essential Tools. So the light tip, which I did cover in the world creation tutorial series, creates lights within your world. I do need to do an updated tutorial on lights, which I haven't got around to doing, simply because there's been a lot of changes in that area. So I'll be skipping over some of the details about light and referencing the previous tutorial, which I did on lights too, sort of, for you to take a look at. I'll also be producing more content on lights in the future. So let's start by creating the spotlight that we need to use to make our cookie here. For that, we equip our light tip. Here's my light tip equipped, and I go to the context menu here and I change it to spot, which is the spotlight function. You'll also see that it changes the tip to sort of look like a spotlight, which is this inverted cone. And then I can sort of aim it at the wall over here, and I can press down my primary trigger action and then pull away, and you'll see that we get a nice big spotlight there on the wall. That's our basic spotlight created. Now let's go ahead and set up the cookie for it. I'm going to show you where it goes, and then we'll show you how to create one, and then we'll talk about how you can sort of edit that. So with the developer tooltip now equipped, you can inspect this light that's been created, and go to Open Inspector. Hit the big up arrow on the left. That's the big up arrow on the left here. Sometimes call it fat up arrow. And you'll get back up to the spotlight visual. Hit it again, and you'll end up at point light. I know it's named point light. That's probably an issue that I should open a bug for, and I will do soon. You'll then see a light component here, which is set to the type of spot, and this is the spotlight variety of light. You can also scroll through these if you want to do other types of lights, but please do refer to the lighting tutorial I have on that. Right at the bottom here is a cookie property. Now cookie is what we want to actually manipulate. Now I need to talk about cookies in terms of sort of traditional sort of lamps and lights. If you've ever seen a theatre production or been on a stage, maybe at your high school or whatever, you might be aware that there are lights which have coloured gels placed in front of them. Usually they're the sort of primary colours, and they look like gel. They're not precisely plastic. They look, all sorts of like weird, etc. Those are gel filters or gel lights, and in 3D game engines such as Neos, they're called cookies. I'm not actually sure if they're called cookies in the real world too. I spoke to someone who was in theatre production. They didn't understand the term either, but just know that that's what we're looking at. So in this case of the cheese and the Neos logo here, what we have is an image which you can imagine being put in front of the light, and then certain amounts of light shine through that image and cast the light onto the wall here. To show you an example of what a cookie should look like, I'm going to go ahead and get one and set it up. So we're lucky that Neos Essentials actually has a bunch of suitable images. They're not entirely suitable, they do need some editing that can be used for this. Let me turn on Private UI, now I'm in Neos Essentials. Inside Neos Essentials here, you can go inside Textures and Sprites. Once inside Textures and Sprites, go into Particle Effects, and then go into Shapes. Once you're inside Shapes, you'll see a lot of common shapes that are used for particle effects. There's more information on particles in other tutorials, not this one. This is about lights. But the particle effects shapes category is very useful for collecting the sort of thing that you'll need. So let's say we go for a star. So we can see a star at the end here. There we go. We get this image here, and you can see that this image is structured by black on the outside and then varying levels of white leading into the inside. This isn't suitable for a cookie. I'll show you putting it in there and you'll see what happens. So I'm going to grab this image with my right hand, and then with my left hand I'm just going to click where it says cookie, and you'll see that it gets set. And with this you'll see that the whole entire spotlight has changed to a square. And that's because the cookie image needs to have alpha where you don't want light and white where you do want light. Thankfully there's an easy way to do this with the existing image from this folder. What we can do here is aim our laser, hit secondary, open the inspector here, and you'll see that we're in the root of the layered start image here, and we get this static texture 2D here. Now beneath most static texture 2Ds, you'll see a bunch of options here. These options are fantastic for sort of just funging or fiddling around with the actual data of the image to conform it to a way that you need it to be represented. For example, if I invert the RGB, and we let it complete, you'll now see that we've got black in the center and white around the edge. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. There are various options here, and I don't have time to go over all of them. What we're actually going to do is use the color to alpha button in the middle here, color to alpha white. What this will do is it will change the image, and it doesn't display here. So what I do just to check it is I grab static texture from up here, and we get another image here. Is it removes the black and replaces the white with varying alpha depending on what its intensity is. So here you can see that we've got a glowing outline going in towards a complete white center star here. And now if we go back to our light over here with the cookie inserted, you can see that we've now got a star pattern. Let's say we wanted this star pattern to be a different color. We can go to the color field here and change this to, let's say, red, and now we've got a red star. If you wanted this to be more intensive, there are two ways to do that. One way is to change the intensity. So for example, here I could change the intensity up to 5, and now we've got a very bright red star in the middle here. But I don't usually advise doing that unless you need to. There are other properties that you need to use in conjunction to get everything here. Much like the lighting tutorial where I believe I went over them. If I didn't, I'm sorry about that. I'm going over them now. You'll see above the inspector, when we select this spotlight here, is a star sort of, glowy ball here. And if you click this, you'll end up with what's called a lighting gizmo. You can see a graphic here, which is representing the light's range and other properties. It's a little bit harder to see because it's expanding outside the wall. So let me hop into NoClip and I'll show you what's going on. So if I go outside the wall here, you'll see that we've got here is a ring, and this ring represents the distance that the light will travel. It's this line in the middle here. Additionally, on the outside is the angle of the light, or spot angle as it's called, and that controls how wide the spotlight is going. So what I'm going to do here is bring this back into the map, as we're like way far out the map here and it's kind of unwieldy. Are you coming with me? Yeah, it's cooperating, it's just slow. And we'll fly this back in. This is a default spotlight. I just pulled too far out when I was creating it. But it's a good thing to show you how crazy things can get if you don't keep an eye on it. I think I was just actually changing the, I was just changing the round. I need to go do that again. I apologize, but let you know. You have to grab the middle to bring that light in. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. There we go. Everything moving now. In we go. Excellent here. So I've moved that in, and what you'll see now is that the range of the light has changed down to 2. So if I grab this, I'll just put this here so you can see it. If I grab this and I move it around, you'll see that the range changes. The range is basically the distance that the light will cast to. You can see that I set it to basically infinity when I was making the light, which is why I had to go grab it in. But what I can do if I know exactly where I'm aiming it for is I can aim it at the wall here. I usually have to go a little bit past it depending on the settings of the light. And we'll start to see how something here. I may have to change the spot angle here as well. In some cases the intensity also needs to go up. Spot angle, for shadow strength, shadow neoplane. Looks like we're going to have to go a lot past this. With this gizmo, the advice I usually have is to just keep at it. So here we are, we're back down to intensity of 1, and we're aiming through that, and it's you know, becoming more apparent that it's there, and it's bright. So there we go. Much brighter now. So that's the range. For the size of the projection, what you can actually control is by using the other property here, the spot angle. And that's controlled by grabbing those outer rings that I was using earlier. So if we grab this one here, what we can do is shrink things in, and you'll see we get a much more narrowed image. What you'll also see, and I'm not sure if this is going to come up on video that much, it looks like it is on the preview at least, is that we've now actually got 2 stars here. This is a common problem with cookies and can actually be resolved. If you go back over to the texture, you can change here where it says wrap mode U, wrap mode V, change these both to clamp, and then you'll only have 1. So that is the spot angle, which changes the size, the range, which changes the range that it projects, and also the brightness in some cases. As mentioned before, you can also change the intensity. This will just make the overall brightness. As a general rule of thumb, I recommend setting the spot angle, then the range, and then the intensity right at the end. So there you go, that is projecting images on walls for you. If you'd like to, you can take a look at this gadget, which I have. It's in my public folder. I have labeled here, I have the distance, the angle, and the intensity as sliders, which means you can kind of play around with it. So here, if I set the distance to lower than it should be, you'll see that the image disappears, but I can also set it to maximum, and you'll see it's still there. I can change the spot angle, which changes the size of the cheese being projected. I can also change the intensity, which changes how bright the cheese is displayed on the wall. Let's say that I wanted to make this cheese into a different image. I can go ahead and inspect the frame of the light here, which is just aiming at the center here and opening the inspector. I can go inside, actually let's go up one, and there's a light slot here. Moving the light slot here, you'll see that the spotlight is here, and I can change that cookie. Let's go ahead and grab the cookie from this one, which is the star. And we can put the star into that cookie. And you see we've now got a yellow star. If you want a different color, you can just change the color property on this, and now there we go. There's a green, is that green? Yeah, that's not green, that's yellow. Sorry, I'm a little bit colorblind. There we go. That's green. And now you've got a green spotlight, and you can move this around. So there you go, that is a spotlight projecting cookies for you. I know that might be a weird tutorial to demonstrate, but quite a few people didn't realize it was a possibility in Neos until I told them. And so here's how to do it. If you found that helpful and you'd like more information on lights, do let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Goodbye.